Yeah, TFP here, and I'm with my best bud.
Now I go TFP.
We have another amazing thing to share with you today.
Yeah, these are two maps, and we're going to show you what they are. And I think you know what they are based on here, but we're going to look at it from all angles.
That's right. So you could probably notice the Wurlington Brothers Press symbol over here, and these are some more of these awesome postcard paper models from those guys.
Yeah, what do you think of those models?
They're pretty cool. You'll see a lot of detail. In this case, we have models from.
We're gonna say what they are later. So, anyways, we're on this side. So this city is.
San Francisco.
And you want to talk more about it?
So San Francisco is an amazing city in the west coast of America in California on San Francisco Bay. And a lot of cool things to do there. Pretty important city. Very important when it comes to technology and internet and computers. It's basically like where the whole industry started in the world was in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. Pretty cool.
And then the second one is Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. We all know about Washington, D.C. It's the headquarters of the United States of America's government. A lot of cool things to see there, a lot of history, a lot of awesome buildings, right? And stuff. So.
Yeah, lots of really awesome buildings here. So we're going to first do the ones from San Francisco.
All right, so yeah, lots of cool buildings here. First, let's talk about that one in the middle. Very interesting shape. Looks kind of like a pyramid skyscraper. It's the Transamerica Pyramid. Very cool looking building. And which business is housed there?
I think you know what it is.
I don't know. I forgot.
Transamerica.
Okay, all right. And then next up we have the...
So there's the other side of it.
That's the other side. So kind of a... Let's talk another building. It's called Mission Dolores. And that's kind of a... If you go to San Francisco and you go to check it out, it's a little unassuming. It's next to a really awesome park. But that's the site of a mission when... I think it was the Spanish missionaries would come to San Francisco, I don't know, hundreds of years ago, and...
Apparently when we went there, it was closed, so unfortunately we couldn't see what's inside.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool to see. Next up is an island in the middle of San Francisco Bay. It is...
Alcatraz.
Alcatraz. So it's...
Everyone knows about Alcatraz.
Everyone knows about Alcatraz. It's a prison on an island, makes it a little more secure because prisoners really can't escape from there, because if they actually got out of the prison part, they'd have to go through the frigid waters to make it back to land, and the water's pretty darn cold year-round in San Francisco, so they'd probably not make it across.
In fact, we went on a ferry to Sausalito when we were in San Francisco, and yeah, the bay was very... Lots of waves there.
All right, next up is the Ferry Building. So Ferry Building is it's a pretty big building. That's where a lot of ferries that travel in San Francisco Bay, that's where they originate from. So yeah, pretty impressive building there.
Yeah, you can see it from the end of Market Street, which I didn't show on here. Okay. So if you look on Market Street, you can see the Ferry Building at the very end. It's really cool.
All right, next up, Golden Gate Bridge. Everyone has heard of the Golden Gate Bridge. It looks amazing in pictures, and guess what? It looks even cooler in person. There's a lot of different vantage points to see it too. You can see it on the San Francisco side from the top, from the bottom. You can see it on the Sausalito side from the top, from the bottom. So yeah, pretty cool structure. Very interesting, beautiful view when you're looking from the east, or from the east to the west. It looks beautiful because you just have the bay and the ocean behind it. So
yeah, and can you say fort that's below it?
Oh, and then below it there's Fort Point Fort, which was there before the bridge, and actually a lot of cool things to see there. So if you ever make it to San Francisco, make sure you check that out as well.
Yeah, sometimes it gets foggy where we only see like the bottom half of it.
Yeah, the fog is crazy because it comes and goes pretty fast and basically makes the just gigantic bridge disappear. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so what's the next one?
Next up is Coit Tower.
It's this one right here.
So it's a very interesting building. I think it's designed to look somewhat like a fire hose nozzle, and it was built by some rich lady to I think to honor the San Francisco firemen,
And I think at the top though, it's an observation deck.
which is nice because it's kind of open air in the top, right? Which is pretty cool. So yeah, if you want, you can climb up a bunch of stairs and go observe San Francisco from the top.
You wanna, what's the next one?
Next one is Sutro Tower. Interesting looking tower here. I think it's some kind of telecommunications tower. Is that right?
Yeah, you can see it from many places like the Golden Gate Park.
Yeah, that's one where you kind of just like, what is that? And then it's like, oh yeah, it's a famous tower. They must have like radio and TV antennas on there. Pretty cool. And then San Francisco, can't talk about San Francisco about one of the coolest things they got going on there, and that's the cable cars. Look at these.
Yeah, we have two of them because when we were getting this, for some reason we accidentally got two cable cars. So this is the one that goes on California Street.
So yeah, there's 3 different cable car lines that are still in operation.
And then this is one of the other lines. This is the Powell-Mason line.
And what's the last line that we don't have cable car? You remember that?
Powell Street Hyde line.
Oh yeah. So it's kind of cool, just going on the cable cars from beginning to end. You think someday we'll be able to go on those cable cars?
Yeah, I went there on 7 times.
So wait, what? 7 times? That's right. We went on cable cars multiple times from the beginning of the line to the end of the line. It's actually a lot of fun. Kind of scary if you hang off the front. That's what.
And then the activity favorite part is the inside of the cable car.
Then if it's crowded, sometimes you got to go on the inside, which is pretty cool, but not as cool as being on the outside. Next up is BART Train.
And that's this one right here.
So BART Train is their train system, kind of like subway systems in
Other cities.
In other cities, kind of like the suburban trains too. It's a little bit of a mix because I think the BART trains will take you from San Francisco to Oakland,
other areas in the Bay.
Yeah, and we were able to go when we were in San Francisco. We were able to go on some of their train system, and we were pretty impressed. It was very nice, right? Like pretty cool. It almost looked looked very futuristic relative to what we have in Chicagoland and New York and all the other cities around the country.
Yeah, so that's it with San Francisco, and now we're going to move on to Washington.
Washington, D.C., so many cool buildings to see. There's such beautiful walking paths to take around there, too. And so, yep, we're going to go through all these cool paper models we have.
And when I think of all the little figures you see here.
A lot of cool little figures, so cool.
And just for right now, I'm going to remove it. I'm going to remove all of them, and then when we go out to the final picture, we're going to put them back. There you go. So now we're going to show you each of them.
All right, let's see. Look at all these cool buildings we got here.
The first one is?
First one is the old post office.
No, the White House.
First one is the White House. Yeah, look at that. Everyone knows about the White House. That's where the president lives, and that's where his offices are too. So a lot of cool things going on there.
You want to talk more about the White House?
Next, White House. I think it was the first president to live in the White House was John Adams, because it wasn't built when George Washington was president.
There was the other side. And then the next one is?
Next one is the old post office. So that's a beautiful looking building. Look at that. That's the post office. I know in 2014, 2015, 16, they were doing a lot of renovations on it to turn it into a hotel, and now it's complete. So now apparently it's a beautiful hotel. So next time we're around DC, we should check that out. Next up, the Pentagon. Pentagon is a very cool office building, headquarters of the United States military. It used to be, maybe it still is, the world's biggest office building. Next up is Mount Vernon.
Everyone knows about Mount Vernon.
It's the home of George Washington.
And actually, one of the figures was George Washington.
Oh, very cool.
So when we show the figures at the end, you can see them there.
All right. Next up, the National Building Museum. So this is a museum dedicated to building. So definitely something worth checking out next time you're in Washington, D.C. I know we'll want to check it out. Then, the United States Capitol, home of the legislative branch of the United States government. So that's where the senators and representatives, that's their offices and where they do their business. Next up is...
Here's the other side. There's a visitor center down here, and you can actually see, like, there's some glass, and you can see the dome of the Capitol.
Yeah, very cool. And so the two different wings represent the Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives. So the Senate has 100 members, and the reps have
435, I think.
435. Yep, that's right.
And then it has a cool dome and rotunda. It looks very cool on the inside.
Yeah, it looks very cool on the inside, very cool on the outside.
It also has a reflecting pool at the front.
Yeah, that's beautiful too. Next up, Supreme Court Building. So that is the third branch of our three-branch system of government, and that's where the courts, that's headquarters for the judicial system, and that's where the Supreme Court does their business.
The next one is?
Next one is the Washington Monument, that amazing obelisk built in memory of our first president, George Washington. It's a pretty impressive structure. It was the tallest structure, one of the tallest structures in the world for a long while, right?
Yeah, and then I think it's now the tallest structure in Washington.
And so it was started, I'm not sure when, in the early 1800s, and then it stopped during the Civil War, and then they picked it up and finished it afterwards. So very, very cool.
And then there's an observation deck at the top. You can see the buildings on each side of it. It looks really awesome.
Do they still let people on top?
Yeah, they do still let people on top.
Cool. Wow. Next up, Lincoln Memorial. Well, we talked about Washington, now we're talking about one of our other most important presidents. That's Abraham Lincoln, and so there's a awesome monument built in his honor.
There's also a reflecting pool at the front.
Reflecting pool in the front.
And then there's some stairs, which have some important.
Yeah, stairs are cool, and then on the walls in the memorial, so you got a cool statue of Lincoln in the middle, sitting down, and then on one of the walls, at least, you have the Gettysburg Address, which is one of Lincoln's most famous speeches towards the end of the Civil War. That's short and sweet and very memorable. Next up is the Jefferson Memorial. So Thomas Jefferson is now another one of our most important presidents. That's a monument dedicated to him. And he was the person who drafted the Declaration of Independence, which is pretty important. He was also the third president. And if I remember correctly, he also was the president who was part of the Louisiana Purchase, which is where America expanded their land
to the west
of the Mississippi. And
it has that cool basin at the front.
Cool basin, cool building. Yeah, very nice.
And then the last one here is?
Last one is the Metro Train. So just like a lot of great cities in the United States, they have a metro system. And the one in Washington, D.C. is pretty nice. You can take trains all around the city, but if you're a tourist, they have trains that kind of run across, get you from the different sites around Washington, D.C. So nice train system they have there.
And those are all the models here. So now I'm going to show you the figures for the Washington, D.C. map. So these are each of the figures.
Very cool.
And then I think that one's George Washington.
Oh, there's good old George.
And all these models, except for the Pentagon, the Metro Train, they have all of these figures here, and I grouped them based on which model they're from.
Very cool.
So they can range from tourists to
historical figures.
Yeah, historical figures
or people who kind of worked in those, was around those structures when they were built. And yeah, very cool. Nice job.
So my company, Wurlington Press, they have an order form here, and you can see all the cool buildings here.
So yeah, look at that. There's a lot of, I think we've built almost all these paper models. So a lot of cool things at Wurlington Brothers Press with these paper models, but you got to be very skilled to actually make them as well. So it's not easy.
So this is a thing that I made. This is all the dates that I created each of these models. So first comes the San Francisco models, and then after that are the Washington D.C. models, and you can see how many stuff are in this map.
Yeah,
So-
it takes a long time to make all these cool models.
So now we're going to show you the map from the different angles. So this is the front of the map, which you see at the start of the video. And then here's some other angles. This is the back side. And here's the other side.
Yeah, there
This
you
is
have it.
San Francisco. Those are the cable cars. That's Market Street and the Ferry Building. That's the Sutro Tower. That's Mission Dolores. That is a view from Oakland, the bay. That's Alcatraz. That's the Golden Gate Bridge from both sides. Now there's a Washington D.C. map. That's Mount Vernon. There's a metro. There's the Washington Monument. There is Jefferson Memorial, Lincoln Memorial, the White House, either side, Old Post Office, National Building Museum, the U.S. Capitol, the Supreme Court side as well, and then that's the other side of the map.
Yep.
And that's it for this really cool map with all these awesome paper models. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.